In the history of World War II, 1940 was a year of dramatic change. At the outset, people watched and waited to see what Adolf Hitler would do next. But for the Allies, as the Führer employed his blitzkrieg tactics across Europe, swallowing up the Low Countries and France into his ever-expanding Nazi empire, it was too late to stop him. Next, Hitler turned his attention towards Britain, and as summer turned to autumn, the island nation quite literally had to fight for its survival. As everyone looked skyward, the Battle of Britain raged overhead, until Hitler was finally forced to face defeat, at which point London bore the brunt of his anger. The Blitz saw Londoners relentlessly bombed, night after night, at the mercy of Hermann Göring's Luftwaffe. But the spirit of Great Britain, now under the premiership of Winston Churchill, never faltered. With autumn giving way to winter, as you'll discover in Fighting Further Afield, the British not only held their ground on the home front, but were soon making headway in North Africa. And while Hitler's Italian ally, Benito Mussolini, edged his troops into Egypt, it was the Axis who suddenly found they had a fight on their hands. As countries around the globe began taking sides in the conflict, what began as a European war showed every sign of becoming truly global. While Japan joined forces with the Nazis, the Americans began sending aid to the British and took precautions to defend their country. In the meantime, the unlikely pact between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, forged at the beginning of the war, was under threat, and before the year was out, Adolf Hitler was preparing for a course of action that was destined to shock the world. By the beginning of October 1940, the boundaries of nations across Europe had changed dramatically. Before the war had even started, Czechoslovakia had effectively ceased to exist, with much of its territory carved up between Germany, Hungary and Poland, while the Western powers, continuing their policy of appeasement, did nothing. It would soon become difficult to ignore the threat that Nazi Germany posed, however, and when Adolf Hitler ordered the invasion of Poland on September 1st, 1939, within 2 days, Great Britain and France were drawn into a war which would last for 6 long years. Although the period leading up to the spring of 1940 was relatively uneventful for the Allies, by April, Hitler's gaze had shifted west, and the continent was soon engulfed in turmoil. On April the 9th, waves of Nazi paratroopers descended into Denmark and Norway, and just 1 month later, the Germans crushed the Low Countries of Belgium and the Netherlands. Then, in a stunning blitzkrieg attack, in which the famous Nazi general Erwin Rommel played a major role, Hitler's panzer divisions swept across France to the English Channel, destroying everything in their path. The British Expeditionary Force and the French troops fighting in Belgium and northern France found themselves trapped on the beaches of Normandy. But when the German panzers halted unexpectedly, it allowed the evacuation of nearly 340,000 Allied soldiers, ending on June 4th, 1940. The miracle of Dunkirk allowed those fighting the forces of the Third Reich a moment to rejoice, but when the Nazis marched unhindered into Paris, there was little left to celebrate.